Well, welcome to this week's Time Out Tuesday. Have you ever said that you were in the wrong place at the wrong time? When we use this expression, it usually means we just happen to be somewhere and something inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unwanted happened to us. If only we had gone somewhere else or waited to go later or on another day. Well, this expression seems to fit the experience of Simon of Cyrene, or does it? Simon of Cyrene is mentioned in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Each writer only spends one sentence on Simon, which is not a surprise, but all three mention him by name and where he came from. Now that is unusual in Scripture. Most times we're told there was a man or a woman, but rarely is the name used. It is believed that Simon was Jewish, as there was a large group of Jews who lived in Cyrene. It is also thought that Simon had come to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover. Mark's gospel tells us that he brought his two sons with him and names them also Rufus and Alexander. This alludes to the fact that they were known among the Christians during Mark's time. So here's Simon with his two sons. They take a trip to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover. They come into town and there's this big hubbub going on. Rows of people outside of town are lined up on both sides of the roadside as if waiting for a parade or something. But it wasn't a parade, it was a crucifixion. Along comes a man, barely recognizable from the beatings he had endured. He struggled to carry his instrument of death, a cross. The cross usually weighed between 30 and 40 pounds, and this man keeps falling under the weight of it. Simon must have wondered, what did this man do? Before he knew what was happening, Simon was approached by some of the Roman soldiers and told to help by carrying the cross that would kill this man. They didn't ask him, that's for sure. Matthew's gospel says they compelled him. Mark's gospel says they forced him. And Luke says they seized him. It's very clear that Simon did not have a choice. I wonder what his sons thought. Were they frightened for their father? Would he be beaten or worse? Well, that's the last we hear about Simon. We suspect that his son Rufus is the Rufus mentioned in the book of Acts, which is the history of the early church, and in Paul's letter to the Romans. So, what can we learn from this story about Simon of Cyrene? Well, we see the humility of Christ. The Son of God accepted help from one of his creations. He could have stopped it all. He could have summed up the strength that he needed to carry the cross on his own, but he did not. He allowed Simon to help him. We learn that Simon took Jesus' cross so that Jesus could take on Simon's sins and ours. The picture of Simon following behind Jesus, carrying the cross, is the perfect illustration of our life as a Christian. We follow Jesus, carrying his mission throughout our lives. And lastly, what seemed like an inconvenient circumstance affected Simon deeply. He became one of the first Christians, as did his sons. Being in the wrong place at the wrong time turned into spending eternity in the perfect place with Jesus. And that, my friends, is this week's Time Out Tuesday. And I do hope to see you all next week. God bless you all.